Hi, this is Glenda. Continuing in our new crafter series. Our new craft is starting to ask about getting some more colours of inks. When I first started, for some reason I thought I was supposed to have lots of colours of ink, and I bought this. And it's got like every colour I thought I would ever want. And I never use it because by the time I sort of really got into what am I going to do with coloured ink, I realised most of them are dry, and I got it on a reduced price, and that's obviously why. I don't have re-inkers for any of them. I've tried some homemade re-inking and things like that, but basically because it's not reliable, I don't even try them. And you know, what I thought was going to save me a fortune was really a waste of money. So I mean, what I use most, and this is for my style of crafting, and depending what you decide, or sorry, our new crafter decides, whatever her style is going to be, is going to require different ink. But what I reach for most is my black. I also like to have brown, and I recently got a grey for a bit of variety in my sentiment stamping. But for the most part, when you use colour, it's going to be coming from your background or your cardstock, or your colouring in of an image. And so actually stamping in ink, you know, when I started I watched a lot of, in those days it was all blogging, and I looked at a lot of blogs that were Stampin' Up, and Stampin' Up of course have a lot of coloured ink, and it was a big deal to own the coloured inks. So you know, I felt that I really needed to. But if I want coloured ink, I nearly always reach for distress. I've got a lot of colours of distress, and because I like to use it for backgrounds and things, and it reacts with water, and for my crafting, this is what I've got a lot in colours. I have very few colours in anything else because it doesn't suit my style. I recently got the gold and silver. I probably reach for the gold more than the silver in this Encore one, but they're a specialty pad, and I wouldn't tell a new crafter to go out and spend money on that. And the other specialty one would be StazOn. If you want to stamp on any kind of plastic or acetate, or you know, anything like that, then that's another specialty one. So for our new crafter, if you really want to add another full colour one, you know, as I said, for my crafting, a brown was a good purchase, and the distress inks are good. Now, the thing is, if you want colours, start with these little small sizes. Ranger have said that these are about to come out in a small size, so you can get an assortment of colours to try. The other thing is, there are a number of types of inks. There's pigment and dye and chalk, and I still get confused by it sometimes because I tend to grab whatever's going to work and don't give it a lot of thought. They do behave differently, and as you become more experienced, you work out what you like. But any of these little ones I used, I got a gold and a silver and a pewter or something in a little packet in a cheap store. I used to use them all the time for edging around what I was doing when I first started. But I mean, these are the little chalk inks in Versa Magic. There's Versa Colour, which I think is pigment. Yes, that's a pigment one. They're a chalk one. These are who knows what. Probably Memento, I don't know. These are a completely no name. In these little sizes, I find they're pretty much of a muchness. So, you know, that's my opinion on coloured ink. Start getting a few colours in these little ones until you know which way you want to go. And don't spend a fortune on lots of coloured ink pads until you find that that's your style. If you find that you want to be stamping in colour all the time, get some coloured ink pads. You can ink up a full stamp with these. I didn't think to bring a stamp, did I? All you're going to do for a full stamp is put it up this way and cover it in ink. It's, you know, it's not like you can't use them for bigger things. So that's my advice with coloured ink. Get the small ones to start with. Not too many, don't go overboard. just get a few colours and see how your crafting's going. Okay, so I've also been asked about how to get a clear image when you're stamping. I am not an expert in anything, and I never claim to be. I make as many failures as I have successes, and frequently I'll say, oh, I shouldn't have been caught by that. I've made that mistake before. And how often do you watch a video and you catch a glimpse of the back of somebody's cardstock and you realise that's not the first time they've tried to stamp that? Frequently, stamping doesn't work just right the first time, and everything about your stamping is going to be affected by everything about it. So, you know, your paper is going to come into it, your ink is going to come into it, the block you use is going to come into it, the surface you stamp on is going to come into it, and the pressure you use is going to come into it, and the quality of your stamp is going to come into it. So it's just a case almost of experience. There's lots of blocks on the market. There's these rocker blocks. I quite like them. They don't work for every kind of stamp, so I don't always remember to reach for it. I did when I first got it, then I just forget about it. That's a bog standard big block if you've got a bigger stamp, and I will use that on occasion. These are the Tim Holtz thin ones. I didn't like them. You get a lot and they're easy to transport if you're carrying them places, but not my favourite. I noticed with Tim, some of them, he puts the stamp on the end and presses down, and that seemed to work, but that's not always going to be suitable for every stamp, so that was a regrettable purchase. I quite like this one. It's the Martha Stewart, and you put your stamp on and you've got a moment to check it and then put even pressure. So I quite like that. I haven't had it long, so I've got to remember to use it. So I've now got it sitting on my desk, because if it's not on my desk, I'm going to grab the one that is. I use this one quite a lot for big stamps. I don't bother with others, but it's the same idea. You put your big stamp. I did get the extra plates for it, and that was a waste. I've never needed them. But yeah, and you've got that time to make sure it's lined up and then come down with even pressure, and for a big stamp that's quite good, and I like that. It's a little bit annoying to store because it's really hard not to get these feet damaged. You've got to be able to store it so they don't get squashed. But the ones that sit on my desk, a small one, a medium one, and a Stampin' Up! One. I only own one of these. I love it. It's a beautiful block, but I think they've got to be the most expensive on the market. You know, you get what you pay for, but you really do pay for these. So a new stamper, if you've got the funds, I guess it's a good investment long term if you're going to keep stamping. If you're going to buy unmounted stamps, so that, as opposed to being on a wooden block, which is my preference. They're much easier to store and find and everything. And the other thing is to have, I often will stamp on this mat, which is, I notice, starting to get some serious lumpy bits on it, which is not good. That defeats the whole purpose. But if I'm having trouble stamping, I'll dig out my mat. If I'm not, then my normal stamp surface, I often have some scrap paper on it. So I'll just have, you know, a little pile of scrap paper, and that acts as a cushion. So you really just want something a little bit cushiony, but really firm. I mean, this is a solid wooden desk. If I bump it, it did jump the camera, but it's a really good hard surface. I notice when I'm stamping at Papermates and we're on trestle tables, I nearly always mess up my stamping without fail. So, you know, you've got to think about all the aspects. People that have been stamping for quite a while might remember these CDs by Ink Boutique, and they came completely unmounted, just the purple rubber, and you were supposed to just stick it straight to a block with no cushioning or anything, and then they supplied you with these little black bits of thick fun foam basically, and that was supposed to do it. Well, this intricate set, I never once got a good stamp out of that. When I recently mounted them onto the Easy Mount foam, they work beautifully, and that's all the difference. It was in the cushioning. A detailed stamp needs to be cushioned. So I would suggest, if you're having any difficulty with your stamping, I prefer this paper. It's kind of smooth. I don't know how to describe it. It was used for all our reports and things at work, and I have no idea what it's called, but it's just a nice smooth finish on the paper. It's not shiny or anything, and you're just going to ink up your stamp and press down, even pressure. Give it a second or two for the ink to soak in. If you lift it too quick, it may or may not work, and hopefully you've got a nice image. Now that's a little bit washy for me, but I mean, I would suggest taking a sheet of paper and trying different surfaces and just practicing all over the sheet. Practice holding at different lengths of time. Try not to get ink on your fingers. Practice rubbing the back, lifting straight up. See, this one's not a clear one. I didn't push as hard. So practice to find what pressure works for you. You know, it could be standing up and stamping. If you haven't got a lot of strength in your hands, try standing up. So, you know, this one's better than that one. It's really just play with it, and every sheet of white paper has a different side to it. You can start again, but it's just getting the feel for it. And I mean, I find really reliable results with Versafine, but that's just my preference. A lot of people like other inks. I'm not sure what else to say about it. That's my experience with it. No, I definitely think I've run out of things to say. So maybe we'll make a card with our newly discovered coloured inks. Okay, so we made our card. I'm sorry you didn't see it, the camera wasn't turned on. So I'll just try that again. Take our cardstock, and that's for the one we just made that you didn't see. And score it in half. I'm going to open it flat to give a better surface. Take our newly discovered coloured ink. Just put a blob. Take sentiment. I had a horrible thought that it might be upside down. No. And I've added glitter to this one. I don't know if I will. Maybe I will. I might add it slightly differently. So I've already explained this to you, but of course you didn't get to see it. I think a good starting glitter is just a plain clear or white glitter. I'm not sure what they call it, if it's clear. Oh, they call it white. Okay, so this is from the $2 shop, this one. You just want to get the finest glitter that you can, and you know, you can spend a lot of money on glitter, but for most jobs I think something like this is fine, and I keep it in a tub, which most people keep the ones they use all the time in a tub. So I'm just going to take the glue and put a bead of it across this way, maybe one across this way, and obviously this is going to take a while to dry. I'm also going to put it on the ink, and honestly at this point I don't know whether it's actually going to stay stuck to the ink or not. If it doesn't, I'm just going to brush it off at the end. If it does, well, that's fine. It's a pretty look. So we've got the glitter across on one and down on the other. It's all about how your squares turn out. So I hope that's a useful idea and some hopefully useful information on ink. But you know, we learn as we go, so don't invest too much in anything until you know what works for you, because everybody has different styles and not everybody likes every technique. So thank you.